Oh, we're live. Okay. Can you see us? Hey, it's better connection than last time when I was in the hotel room. Can you see? Can you hear me? Can you hear Charles? Charles, say a word or two. Can you hear Charles? And then if so, um yeah, I need to know Beyonce, I need to know you can't hear Charles. Okay. All right. So all right, the way I gotta well hang on, I gotta unplug this. And then you should be able to hear everybody. Try that again, Charles.
Beyonce. Uh, well, I'm getting a comeback, an echo.
Oh, now
But
you're getting the echo.
yeah, okay, it's better now.
Okay, so
Better.
it just it
Yeah,
evened itself out.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on. It's like you spend all this on equipment and then none of it works. We ended up, with the fundamental stuff. So, and then I can't see the numbers. Hey, where's everybody? Let's do a quick roll call. Where are people at? It's 11 o'clock here in Philly. It's cold. That's why I'm wearing the hat today. Um, but I'm back home. I'm happy about that. Although the thing, Charles, I talked to you earlier today. The thing about being back home, you gotta do all the work. You can't, it's like it's nice to get love, but then you gotta actually do work so you can get opportunities to travel again. I'm sorry you didn't get to go, but you watched my presentation, correct?
Yes, I did.
Okay, so we're you're not gonna see it, but we're refining it so that when it comes, it's sort of like the tape we made was sort of like the Louis C.K. It's not. I think the presentation is it's the ideas are there. It's just we need to make a better, more organized presentation before I'm comfortable putting it out there. I think a lot of good ideas in it, though. I mean, I don't know what you felt, but California's in the building. Sandra Salinas. I'll be in LA next weekend, the following week, next weekend for the Pan African Film Festival. I'm not screening, but I have a lot of friends who are screening. So if you're at the Pan African Film Festival in Los Angeles, it's a very good chance. If you see some guy that looks like me, it's a very good chance it's me because I intend to be there. West Oak Lane. Wow. Okay. That's Philly, for those who don't know. UCLA, no, Pan African Film Festival is at the Magic Johnson Theater, I believe. At least the last time I was there, they had it down in Baldwin Hills, Crenshaw. But it's been easily 2 decades since I was at in LA in time for Pan African, so I'm excited about that. Ukraine, UK time, 4 o'clock in the afternoon in the UK.
Beyonce Mega Man is in law school. Oh my gosh.
Okay.
That reminds me of what my daughter's going through. So I wish her all the best because that's not no easy chore. That's a heavy task. Law and the medical profession.
Okay. Yeah, and your daughter just started a medical program, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So big shout out to her, and which is another reason you didn't want to travel. You just had her over, right? So before
I tell you what was scary, Mike. I told you the problem I was having with my legs.
Yeah.
And tonight I saw a lady. She just was given two legs, and she lost the legs.
Uh-huh.
She had undiagnosed diabetes.
Wow. Okay.
And I had to walk away from the TV set because it scared the hell out of me.
Well,
but she said, she thought it was from standing and on her feet all the time, being a health aid person, and but there was undiagnosed diabetes. She lost her 2 legs.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, time waits for no one. We got to everybody, family. We got to get Charles on the ball so we can get all this information into books and presentations, so that we can make enough money. So if and when either of us should lose our legs, we have the most money available. We don't have those rusty Obama legs. We get some real highfalutin legs. We can run Olympics. But
well, you know, it reminds me of a gentleman. He claimed that the train ran over his legs, and he had no warning about it. But he went to court and he lost. He lost the case.
Oh, for real?
Yeah, he didn't have a leg to stand on.
Oh God. Okay. All right. You're trumping my joke. Beyonce liked my joke, and you gotta. No, actually, Charles does not have diabetes. That's the fear, right? That it's not diagnosed. Correct? Am I getting that?
Well, I thought I had it because I was so sweet, but
oh God,
I'm okay. I'm all right.
Diabetes jokes. Bear with us. So we're gonna get into the conversation. Waiting for the room to fill. We only have 4 people. It looks like in here right now, but thank you all for watching the channel. When you watch the channel and you share the channel, it allows us to grow. Our goal is to put up at least 2 videos every day. My personal goal to share 2 things a day. And if one video can go viral and stay up and monetize every couple months, then that means we are continuing to grow and also bringing new eyeballs to the channel, because we're still sort of a best kept secret for a lot of people. For as many subscribers as we have, our typical initial viewership is very low in proportion, which is fine with me because I don't feel any pressure to stay at a certain level. I was saying to you, Charles, like my goal, as we grow, I don't want us to be contributing to the dumbing down of the culture, and I don't ever want to feel the need to be pandering, like just to be making videos talking about people just to talk about them. You know, from the very first day we started Real Black, I always felt that our logo was sort of like co-signing. If you see our logo on something, it's worth your time. That's always been my attitude. But what are your feelings as we're growing? We added 11,000 subscribers this month, Charles.
Yeah, I saw. We were just talking the other day. Well, a couple of days ago, it was around 222. Then today I saw 226. I said, "Oh, God bless." But the thing is, a lot of people don't know, you know, the hard work you have to put in to make your channel work. And I told you have to be proud of that legacy, Mike. Don't let anything get you down, because what's always encouraging is when you see comments come in that says, "I love this channel." In fact, I was just talking to Welfare Dad the other day. I called him because I needed some advice on how to set up the book for the technology book I'm working on. And I saw he left a comment behind the latest update. One of the latest updates you have is this tragic Tulsa massacre that took place in 1921. And he said, "Real Black keeps it real." It may be tough to watch sometimes, but it keeps it real. And then you had other viewers chime in with, "This should be taught in schools and whatnot." And to that point, this whole history, they made it taboo. They didn't want this to be well known in the press, in the history, the annals of history, what happened, the savagery of whites against blacks, the jealousy, the vitriol, and what forced people to go in and destroy a whole community, where it left 300 blacks dead, over 10,000 homeless, bodies were heaped on trains and dumped in the Arkansas River. A lot of graves that were mass graves that they dumped the body in to hide their atrocity, the atrociousness of what they did. And not until 1997, after a commission was set up to find out, okay, let's look into this. A gentleman said he had just come across this grave, and they dug in, and then all of a sudden they said, okay, we're going to look into this to put into the history books what actually took place.
Right.
So it's a tragedy. It's something that, you know, I hope people don't think it will never occur again, because if you look at just the first 5-10 minutes of the documentary, was just uploaded by your channel. The thing the guy said is they had people come out the army. They had their guns. They brought their weapons with them, and they couldn't find jobs. Right. And then they looked over Greenwood Avenue and saw the extravagance, the luxury, the dignity, the class that this Black community had. Booker T. Washington dubbed it the Negro Wall Street.
Right.
And the whole thing is, when you hear what drove these people to say that, okay, maybe I'm not getting a job because these people are taking all the jobs. Right. That kind of rhetoric is the kind of rhetoric that is filtering our environment once again.
Yeah.
In today's world.
Yeah. So inadvertently we sort of established. Thank you for that, Charles. Inadvertently established a pattern this week with some of the uploads. Somebody had mentioned to me about Killer Mike having a show on Netflix where he was talking about Black empowerment and how long the dollar circulates within the Black community. And I said, well, that sounds familiar. That Maggie Anderson was talking about that 10 years ago, so, and I happened to meet her and was involved in the African American Chamber of Commerce here in Philadelphia and filmed her keynote speech. So that sort of started the week where shared that video. And then just by sheer coincidence, it kind of led us through, the Tulsa documentary, and then followed by Book of Numbers, and then today intentionally shared the audio book of Reginald Lewis. So it kind of sets up a theme in terms of Black empowerment. One of the comments, and I'm having issues typing in comments, but I'm seeing them all, but it's giving me errors. So we're definitely paying attention to the side chat, but in terms of these videos that are out this week, I think there's an excellent conversation to be had, Charles.
Yeah, well, I just want, before we deal with the connection between, or as they say, if you got more than two, then it's among. The connection among the videos you put up where there's this theme of self-reliance. I just want, before we lose our brother Beyonce's Mega Man, he just made a comment on having seen Imitation of Life, and what was jarring for him was this scene where the white boyfriend discovers that his lover is Black. So I just, a little side note for Beyonce's Mega Man is, what's interesting is that the actor in this version, the second version, 1959 version of Imitation Life, it was Troy Donahue who played the part. And in real life, Troy Donahue married a Black woman.
Interesting.
Yeah. But there's this connection, this theme of Black self-reliance, because watching the some of the Tulsa Lynch documentary, where they talk about the recycling of the Black dollar up to 8 times in the Black community.
Yes. And
then I told you how I was impressed with the speech given by the lady with the Philadelphia Chamber of Commerce, and the importance of Blacks relying upon Black businesses, dealing with Black businesses, helping Black businesses to grow. There's that connection. And then earlier we discussed the film Book of Numbers. And that was about these guys saying, we're going to do our own thing. We're going to have it's okay, it's a numbers racket, but we're going to do our own thing. And then you put up, why should white guys all have all the fun? So it's interesting. I don't know, it wasn't intentional, but there's that theme of self-reliance. And the thing is, with Black self-reliance, what happens is you get a lot of conspiracies or interests from people outside of our community who don't want us to have that kind of lucrative business among ourselves, and want to come in and disrupt everything and take over and be large and in charge like they always want to be.
Right. So, somebody had left a comment, and we love all the comments, by the way, for the videos. It definitely inspires us and gives us fuel to keep digging and looking for more things to share and engage the conversation because, again, I see this as a transformative year. We want to get our ideas out more. So it's also helpful to hear what you have to say from your perspective so that when we put things in writing or we make presentations or ultimately make films, dealing with these topics or not dealing with these topics, but just design as entertainment. We kind of have like you said, a leg to stand on. Was that your joke? So as far as Charles, we're talking to Charles Woods. As far as the Tulsa documentary, somebody said, well, I wish somebody would do this to my community. And I said, well, so it's almost 100 years. 1921 is virtually, we're 2 years off. 98 years ago, the Tulsa riot, and they're literally dropping firebombs on the community.
Yes.
Not too, it was over 100 years ago. I said they just found a different way to do it. And I think symbolically, when you see symbols of Black wealth and success being taken down, I have a greater understanding of what they say. I think sometimes inappropriately used, but they say this is a modern day lynching. When you see symbols of Black wealth taken down, in some ways, we've invested so much emotion in some of these folks. It's almost this, it gives you the same resonance, not the destruction of life, but it's the destruction of the idea that you can become something. So I want to, do you have any feelings on that before we jump into the self-reliance ideas?
Well, I mean, I'm looking at the comments,
Mm-hmm.
and so is it's tangential to what we're talking about right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, this does, to Beyonce Mega Man's point, relate to the film Rosewood, and he feels maybe this story should be remade. And so that goes to the question I think I want to ask our viewers, like, what attracted them to the channel? And as far as film is concerned, what kind of films they go see, and how important is it in the films they go see? How important is it to them in terms of what the Black image should be? Is that an important concern? Or do they just go to the movies and they just want that the film be respectful of their dollar and it be well made and it tells an interesting story? And if there are Blacks in it, that they be respectable Blacks, dignified Blacks, multi-dimensional Blacks. I'm curious as to, is there any commentary that the viewers have regarding what they want to see in film regarding the Black image?
Okay, so that's a good one. I'm having difficulty with my chat here. So somebody's saying like Rosewood is a film. Also, Solomon Sir Jones home movies. It's like a roaming preacher from the 20s shot home movies. Had one of the first film cameras, and he went to some places in Oklahoma where there were Black run towns and they own oil wells. Very successful, wealthy stuff. So if you want to see actual film footage of people, Solomon Sir Jones, and there's also on Netflix. I think it's on Netflix. Definitely, there's clips floating around Facebook, YouTube, all that stuff. So Beyonce saying, "I'll be honest, I miss the characters like Uncle Phil and Reginald Johnson in Lethal Weapon. I want to see families, intelligence, just showing them being noble." Max, I'm interested in truth, albeit ugly or not. Can you repeat the question, Charles? What kind of movies are you interested in seeing, and in terms of what's reflective of your world? And is that what you're getting at, like in terms of what makes you feel good, or just what entertains you?
Yes, I told you the other day, one of the sections of the book that I'm trying to piece together a chapter that deals with the dilemma, the dichotomy of how good it made me feel when I saw Sidney Poitier in film. And then for me, it was great because we didn't have any proud black image. I mean, a little of Paul Robeson, he was a dignified black image. Mm-hmm. But Sidney was the man, and he came on in 1950. And then when he did his body of work, there were a number of people who criticized the fact that Sidney's films promoted integration, amalgamation, just going along to get along. And so for me, it didn't do that. It did that, but it did more than that. It built on the importance of racial tolerance, and that, racism is built on ignorance. And I love the growth that was displayed in Sidney's films, where he was, someone who was looked upon initially as just another nigger, but he showed he was much more than that, and so he showed, his character showed the importance of not judging someone based on the color of their skin. Right. And then when you see the content of their character, the respect is a consequence. But the thing is, he took a lot of hits, and one guy attacked him vehemently in an article. Why does white America love Sidney Poitier so much? Even Sidney said that article really hurt him because he was trying to do something in film that was never done before. Because Sidney will tell you, when I went in Hollywood, I didn't see anybody but the black boot black. And he said he would never want to do anything on screen that would make him embarrassed the way he was embarrassed when he went to movies and saw the Step and Fetch It images, the Mantan Moreland images. So the question is, when we get a dignified image, let's connect it with a film like Green Book. I told you I loved Green Book, but you have a lot of blacks who...
We're going to get... I haven't cut that yet. I'll put it up tomorrow.
Okay.
I'm trying to figure out how to block this guy.
There was a lot of people who did not like the film because they immediately dismissed it as a white savior film. And because of that, they said it was also a film made to make white people feel good. So it's like the dichotomy and the dilemma is, you can't please everyone all the time, but what is it that blacks want to see in film?
Yeah, well, that folds into what my talk in Texas was about. Is it representation or is it justice? Is it just enough to see a black face, or do they have to be doing things that are proactive or empowering? So I mean, that's to fold it back into self-reliance. What we have with Sidney Poitier, he was a reflection, along with the music, the black artists and art, beginning with that post-war movement. And you certainly can speak to this. The Harry Belafontes and the Sidney Poitiers, they came through at a time when civil rights were happening, and they brought their art and their talent to that movement. Now, if anything, you're seeing black artists talk about Black Lives Matter or different things that are very issue oriented, but they're not necessarily, in my sense, preaching any kind of integration and there's certainly, as it was mentioned here, there's certainly a dearth of real true love stories and romances, things, so it's still like we're still subjective. We're not necessarily making movies specifically for a black audience, nor have we evolved to a level where it seems like we're interested in showing or reflecting humanity and love in terms of our the films that I'm seeing right now, like healing, like how do we heal from all this trauma? It's frustrating to me to be inundated from the time I wake up on social media and Twitter and all with a lot of gossip and a lot of dysfunction, and then pay money to see something like that in the theater. So, I mean, certainly shows like a Queen Sugar deal with it. Insecure doesn't necessarily promote healing in a sense that she's just out there, but she's dealing with her own issues in terms of her empowerment. But I mean, what are your thoughts? What are some of the thoughts on the board here?
Well, I think we have a lot of commentary coming from Beyonce Mega Man.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like for you to speak to the point he's saying all we get is a lot of Friday movies. So in your discussion, what got a great response to what you were saying.
Oh, Chris Rock. Yeah, I put that in the
tell
video.
that story. Yeah.
Well, it's in the video that I shared. Well, it's Chris Rock's Oscar thing, which is like 2000. Not much has changed, but he was saying, black film lacks imagination. We typically, and I have to find this article. Paul Mooney was talking about a similar thing. We don't always project into our imagination the same way our creativity extends in music. We have not gotten to that level in film. And he was saying, we lack imagination. A lot of times, so if you go see a black movie and it's called Car Wash, it's set at a car wash. If you see a movie called Barbershop, it's at a barbershop. So he said, well, what's next? Check Cashing Place. So it's just projecting this idea that we have to exist in reality outside the movie theater. And then when we go, most people go to the movies for escapism, but for whatever reason, Friday, all that stuff is just reflecting our reality. And then when you get into social media and television, fantasy doesn't exist at all. It's all about reality TV and sort of making people famous that act the same way that we do, as opposed to projecting an ideal. And then, unfortunately, when it was music videos, it kind of backfired in the 90s with somebody like a Hype Williams. The whole idea he wanted visually was to show Black people being glamorous and successful, but it was just purely an image. And unfortunately, image spread across the globe. So after a while, you had everybody tatted up, diamonds, bling, bling, and just projecting the most decadent reflection of what our identity is about, but that was always aspirational. You look at, I need to find an episode of MTV Cribs, Charles, just to show how fake some of these motherfuckers were, renting the houses and pretending that they lived. The only person that was successful like that was Mike Tyson. He actually had lions and shit, but he was also certifiably nuts when he had all that money. So, but still you can't take that image away of Mike Tyson with the big mansion and the lion. The rest of those rappers were perpetrating.
Yeah, I see Pope Cerebus the First. Mm-hmm. When will black film be called just film? Isn't that integration, dare I say, progress?
That's the goal, right?
Yeah, well, the whole thing is...
wait, before you jump in, the goal, just to clarify, I mean, like as long as you have a certain hue in this society, it doesn't matter what you think internally, you're going to be labeled as such. And my feeling is, why not? Everybody else is strength in numbers. Why not use that as a plus rather than a minus? So anytime somebody says, why can't we just be this and not a black this? I always bristle. But the goal should be, we should have the same wide variety of options in terms of how we're reflected in media that folks that aren't labeled black do. But anyway, go ahead. Your feelings.
My thing is, see, that's the whole issue. Once you put blacks in something, it's no longer a film, just a film. Mm-hmm. Because blacks are always viewed differently in this system. One of the things that really irks black performers is that when they go to promote their film, someone's always asking them, well, about images. As a black person, this black person, that, these kind of questions are never posed at your white actors. Did you have some trepidation about taking this part because you're a white man?
Exactly. Yeah, I want to share something with you, but continue on that thought. I'm still looking for it.
So the thing is, years ago, Lou Gossett did An Officer and a Gentleman. Now, he received the Best Supporting Actor for that role.
Mm-hmm.
That role was not race specific. It wasn't written as a black character. He went out to get the role, and although a lot of people of his persuasion, color-wise, didn't go out for the role because they figured it was a black part,
Mm-hmm.
so to say. So Lou went out. He said, well, sure, I'm going to go for this role.
Mm-hmm.
And he got it. Now, once he took that role and he's reading the lines off the script, the way it's written, there's nothing to say. There's nothing was written in there that would be associated or stereotypically connected to make it say, oh, this is black. It was just, it was a white character, but a black man played the part.
Right.
But the very instant he took that part, it takes on another dimension because of his blackness.
Right. And
to be specific, there's a scene, Richard Gere's character learns how to defend himself. He learns karate because he was always picked on, if people remember the film. So he knew how to fight real well. So during the physical training, when Lou Gossett is teaching them how to, in the combat sequence, he's teaching them. And Richard Gere's character, he takes on Lou's character. In the original script, Gere was supposed to beat that character.
Right.
Gossett questioned it and said, this doesn't make sense. We got a seasoned top sergeant who's been through battle. I don't think he should lose to this guy.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there's two things happening here. He's right on that part. But the politics of color comes into play also, that if he would have lost it the way it was called for in the original script, it would have taken on a racial perspective, where they said, well, they can't have the black guy beat the white guy.
Exactly. Yeah. And those tricks still play into things. I'm looking for this Paul Mooney quote, but you know what? It's to your original point. I just happen to be in the store. This is something I can recommend. I'll hold it up here. So you see that?
Mike, can I just?
Oh, finish.
To complete the thought.
Sorry.
Yes, beautiful. To complete the thought is, what happens tragically is when whites do movies, you don't see white. It's already accepted. Whiteness is accepted. It's the norm. But as soon as a black is in something, you see black.
Okay. Perfect timing.
Okay.
Perfect timing. So this is Paul Mooney. I can't show you that picture. We made an investment the last month in getting old Players magazines because they have tremendously good interviews. Players is sort of like the Afro-American edition of Playboy, basically. Is that what you say?
Mm-hmm.
So, they did a whole piece on Paul back in 1977. And
love it.
Very insightful. I can't show you I gotta hold it this way. I'll put it that way. There's like need stuff in here. But so he says, what motivated you to want to do TV? Says Players Magazine. He says, watching television and seeing how boring it is from a black standpoint. It's boring for us. It's not really into us. They think of us as images. They don't think of us as people because people do everything. They think of themselves as people. I can turn on my TV all day long and see them in all kinds of situations. If they're not on the moon, they're right here in situations beyond belief, in all kinds of roles, doctors, lawyers. There are women doctors and lawyers. I see them in all kinds of roles. I see us doing a lot of grinning and bucking our eyes a lot. Question, can that be changed? Hell yes, it's going to have to be changed through writers and actors and actresses. White people feel they know how to write for black people. they really believe that. It's really sad. Their writers feel they are the best at describing the Black experience. They really think that. That's why I now feel I can write for Doris Day. So she says, well, what would you write for Doris Day? If I had the power, I'd remake Cabin in the Sky and she'd play the lead. Same song, wouldn't change a thing. So that's 1977 observation about that dichotomy.
That's why I told you I was glad you were getting these magazines, because for the book, I'll use a portion of that for one of the sections in my book. But the thing is, I like to back up what I'm saying with some other people's ideas, people who are in the business. It's just not the way Charles Wood sees it. It's my perspective is kind of endorsing or reflective of how a lot of other people feel, how we internalize this stuff, how it connects to our psyche, and so this is what I think. Here's someone who said something similar. So it's important. Right. This is research.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the other thing, like in terms of Black success and the double standard, I was showing this Tonight Show. This is great because it's all comedians, right? So it's 3 discs, and each disc has 3 episodes, full hour and a half episodes with comedians from the 80s. So Steve Martin, Robin Williams, and Eddie Murphy. And I was like, wow, I got to jump on this because it's the full Eddie Murphy, first time he did national television stand-up. So, it's frustrating though. Eddie, I think, and we put up an Eddie Murphy documentary also, we could talk about that, but he kind of transformed the perception of what young, Black, and hip was. I think he was a big game changer in terms of that identity. But, the second time he's on Johnny Carson, he's like, wow, you're so hot now. What are you doing with your money? What are you doing with all that money? How are you handling fame? And it's like, and Eddie handles it really well, but it just seems like, white folks have no problem saying, oh, you're really well-spoken, or wondering what you're doing with your money when you have any kind of success and fame. But it's a taboo topic. You can't go to a rich person's house and ask them how much they paid for something. They'd be offended. You'd never be invited back. But that's par for the course when it's almost like we're not expected to be successful. I mean, there's a tweet like that where Jordan Peele is on the cover of the next Rolling Stone, and the cover is like the surprising, unexpected success of Jordan Peele, and Peele retweeted the cover. He said, "I love this. I love being a Rolling Stone, but unexpected. Why in 2019 does it have to be a surprise to have somebody that can be successful to the masses? It's like they don't expect that."
Well, I see Gary Watts is part of the viewing audience tonight, and I just want to give Gary a shout out. Gary's been a supporter, but I hope he doesn't get insulted by this, because I love Gary. I'm, looking at the picture that he posted, I wonder if Gary's white.
Okay.
And a lot of times, as I told you the other day, people have to be mindful. Like, let's say we're discussing Black imagery, and we're discussing the things we're annoyed with and what upsets us about it. But the thing is, I don't think there's any other people like Black people when it comes to knowing what it is like to be mistreated. There was a great affinity between Blacks and Jews, because Jews, they suffered the same indignity. Now, for me to say that, you may have some tribalistic or nationalistic Blacks who say, "Damn that, look what they did to Hollywood," stuff like that. I don't want to get off in that. The thing is, I've done a lot of speechifying. I've had to run a lot of programs, film programs, and things like that. And a lot of times you have to make sure you qualify when you say white people. and you qualify who's running the system.
Mm-hmm.
Even Baba Dick, he said, it's when you say white people, there are a lot of white people who are catching more hell than we are.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's the thing is, it's the elite power structure that is running things, and the way they maintain the status quo is that they keep people, all the people, looking for some enemy, some scapegoat, they keep the little man at each other's throats. As someone so rightfully said, we have more in common to unite us than we have differences.
Yeah.
And it's those differences that they just magnify. And so the thing is, it has to be clear that, you just can't say white folk and make it sound like you're blaming all white people. You follow what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
And that's the danger. What happens is that in saying things, sometimes you get caught up in popular ways, things that say, like, for example, some people take issue if you say people of color.
Right.
You got people take issues with every little, everything is nuanced. It's just, this world is crazy.
Yeah.
Because as I said before, they've turned the HUMAN condition into the HUEMAN condition, the human condition into a hue where it's about skin color.
Right. So, I mean, we're talking about self-reliance. Now, one thing, Warrington Hudlin is a mentor of mine. I used to work intern at Black Filmmaker Foundation. And, I talked to him from time to time. Last time he was on the radio, I said, wow, Warrington, you and your brother responsible for so many of the classics that we love, House Party, Boomerang, you name it, Cosmic Slop, so many touchstones of movies we love. And he said, yeah, I made a lot of money for white people back in the day. So that made me think. But then one of the things he always brings up when he does his events in Queens, he says, I think the video might be online. I think one of the times we filmed it, but he says, what, there's this belief, and I think it's a false belief, Charles. I don't know how you feel about it. And I'm not sure what the root cause is. That's why I want to explore this a little bit. He said, Black people are the culture. We are American culture, and they love us in music. And then, but they don't love us in film. I'm not sure why that image doesn't translate where they can accept our humanity, our diversity within music, but then when it comes to movies, it doesn't happen. Do you feel it's systemic, or is it some sort of mental block, like the music comes in a different way than the visual, or is it part of just like
you said it right there,
uncomfortable with the power structure, like seeing people empowered in that representation? Go ahead.
You said it right there.
Mm-hmm.
Music is oral.
AURAL. Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Film is visual. Okay? Because it's visual, it's not only visual. See, the unique thing about film is that it is a conglomeration of all the arts, aesthetic-wise. It's audio, it's visual, it's imagery. There's so many things that can do with film. Film is the most powerful art form on the face of the planet. We look at, you take music, and music, they say, can soothe the savage beast. Mm-hmm. When you hear music, it takes you into a different perspective, a different
realm in your mind.
A different realm in your mind. Mm-hmm. Yes. What happens with film, because of the images and what we attach to those images, that's what stereotypes. When the phrase was coined, see, we're dealing with images. Images, you have to know thing that is all about symbology, and that's semiotics. as I told you before, there are two ways we learn. We learn in culture. We learn the culture two ways. We learn two ways. We learn somatically, and we learn symbolically. Because of what has been attached to the symbols, the politics, the nuanced politics, we get caught up. That's what attacks our perception. Our perception is our reality too often. Then, the reality that is governed by our perception, that can't be changed until we allow objective truths to come in and to reveal what our reality is. Okay? But music, music is something it's aesthetically experienced differently than film.
Right.
Film is very tough because of that.
So a lot of people, when they're making that argument, they also say, well, it could be like food. People eat soul food. People like Chinese food. Why can't we have our own flavor of film and have people accept it?
You asked me a question, Mike?
Yeah. I'm just throwing it out there.
You mean with the food?
Well, I mean, they say culturally, it's Chinese people are represented in the film. Nobody has a problem eating Chinese food. In fact, it may be the #1 seller, in a lot of communities. But it's difficult to package our art within filmmaking for that reason. When can, and then folding it back into the self-reliance. Yeah, I think it all comes from this idea that we should be able to identify what makes us us and commodify it, package it, and sell it to the rest of the world the same way everybody else seems to do. Why does it always feel like we're starting at square one with these things?
Well, I'll give you a classic example. I mean, I don't see that being analogous, the food connection.
Okay.
But what I do think is analogous is the love factor. I've studied interracial romance for years. And the thing is, can you tell me who I should love and not love? Should it be, is there a difference between if I'm black and I fall in love with a white woman, should that be a difference?
Within a film or in life?
Let's say if it's in film, it's reflective of what happens in life, right?
It doesn't bother me who you sleep with, Charles, as long as you don't mess with me like you were.
But what I'm saying
I told you twice.
the thing is, we've had a number of films that came out where they dealt with interracial relationships. The Mountain Between Us, the story based on the real life event of the Lovings. Okay, there's so many films coming out where you have interracial relationships, and so the thing is there an issue with that? If there is, what is the issue? If we're talking about healing, if we're talking about promoting, let's say not even integration, but just promoting that people are people and seeing people from a universal perspective where we all share the same wants, the same desires, as people are people.
Okay, so I'll be devil's advocate for this conversation here, Charles. Let's explore. I'll be devil's advocate. So on one hand, I think we invest a lot of power into these images, and they are forever. And I think that culturally, we all model ourselves around movies, right? So I think the anxiety that comes, well, twofold. One, the people making the films are not necessarily the people. They're making it for them, not the audience that would be interested in seeing a film sometimes. So a lot of times we get stories that are projecting an idealized vision of the world, or maybe we're being forced to look at things through a perspective that we don't necessarily have or cherish. Like a few years back, and the show's gotten better. When Blackish came on, Stephanie and Renee and I were debating, well, what is this title? What does this mean? And the reality is that Kenya Barris had worked himself up to a strata of way upper middle class life, and these were the dilemmas that he was facing, that maybe he had gotten so successful in the white world that his kids were in danger of losing their cultural identity, and that's the foundation for the show. And it's sort of like, well, most people can't relate to that, but they present it in a way where it's managed to stay on the air for 5 or 6 years, and it had some classic episodes. I'm not taking anything away from the show. So I use that as an example. Like, a lot of times the movies we get to see are because people are in a position to make the film, either financially or on a class level. That's their dilemma. Now, the threat on the ground level is that, hey, if you keep projecting these ideas about sexuality and gender and race into this homogenous melting pot, it's not really going. It may help serve your catharsis as an artist or a filmmaker, but it's not solving the problems at ground level, where the more realistic issue is, finding a suitable mate or learning how to have a healthy relationship, and building a strong community within my cultural identity, as opposed to diversifying this idealistic thing, the we are the world kind of stuff, in terms of promoting interracial. And you've done a whole study in terms of what level of interracial we get to see in film. So there's still an imbalance there, but that's being devil's advocate. I think most people are resistant to that type of change, and because it doesn't reflect their reality.
Well, right quick, the reason why I raised that as an issue, because it's one that touches people. It really incenses a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and my dilemma is saying, okay, on the one hand, I can appreciate the factor of tolerance that interracial romance is promoting, the acceptance. The key line is the 1967 Sidney Poitier did the film Guess Who's Coming to Dinner.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now that was groundbreaking. It wasn't the first time it was done, because he did one earlier in '65 with A Patch of Blue.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but remember, in A Patch of Blue, the girl was blind.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that fulfills my 3D effect, where, I used to say, if they have a black man fall in love with a white girl, she's got to either be blind, crippled, or crazy.
Right.
Okay, but the thing is, on the other side of the coin, what it was saying is, she was blind and she didn't see color.
Right.
She fell in love with a man who was treating her in a very decent, human, respectful way.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So that's the dichotomy I speak about. Now, the other thing is, with getting back to Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, there's a key line in that film where his father objects to the prospective marriage between his black son and this white girl. And Sidney gets upset, and he says, yeah, you took care of me. You're my father, but you had to. You brought me into this world. But there's that key line. He says, Dad, you think of yourself as a colored man. I just think of myself as a man.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? That's beautiful. We would love for that to be the reality. See? And then the other thing that I have issue with, the other side of the coin is, okay, you can give me some of these interracial relationships, but to Eric LaSalle's point, when he didn't want to continue a romance with a white woman on the medical show he was doing on TV, he was saying, I have no problem with black and white relationships. My objection is that they always show black and white relationships working and being respectful, but they never show black men, black women relationships being loving and respectful. And we don't get them as much.
Right.
So that's what I'm saying. The question is, what is film? What is its role? And is it? And I get back to you once again. I said it's important for us to decide, in order for us to really understand what it is we're looking for something to be and to do. We have to really define what it should be and do. And until we reach the point where we can lay out what are we expecting from something, you just can't say, I want this to be this and I want this to be that. And then if it does that, then it's what I want it to be. We have to first say what it is we want it to be. And then if that's what we lay out, what we want it to be, then when we see it on the screen and we check off the boxes, then we can say that's what this thing we call black film is.
Right. So let's fold that back into the original premise, self-reliance. So we had Tulsa, which is one of the greatest tragedies in the United States, where you had a whole town, black owned, black successful, black wealth, literally destroyed by envious poor whites over false claim trumpeted in the media. They felt they had the right to lynch and burn. And
now you said trumpeted. I
did. The words in my head because of I wrote something on it. But touted. How's that? False allegations leading to and we still to this day have a sense of white people feel they have the right to do whatever they want to black bodies. And that's been the narrative for the longest time. I'd say since Obama's second term began, we started to see rumblings of it, and film is catching up to some of it. And that's being reflected a lot. But what we're not seeing is, and we have to go back in time to discover our movies, not necessarily always set in the past, but just show people that just want to be. So if the original question was, why can't we just see movies that are reflective of our real life, but are still entertaining, much in the way that white folks can go see a movie like Big or even Tootsie and not feel like it's got something against us, just pure entertainment for the sake of entertainment without any real digs at anything. Why don't we get that? Why does everything have to be a statement? And then also self-reliance, self-determination. Like Book of Numbers, I just felt was a brilliant gem, but you notice that there's only one Book of Numbers. It's never been seen since it came out, and it's extremely hard to get, but it has a lot of prescient things in it that I think if more movies were like that, maybe we might be in a different place in our minds.
I thought Raymond St. Jacques did a great job for his first directorial and only directorial work with A Book of Numbers. It was a small film, but he peppered it with a lot of great dialogue. There's one scene where he says something about a white girl can never be ugly because she's beauty because of her whiteness. That's white privilege.
Yeah.
Okay. The man who's running this United States right now, that's a clear example of white privilege. A lot of people, don't realize, as Paul Mooney used to say, you got the what he used to say, the complexion for the connection,
for the protection,
he used to talk about he wouldn't give a white man with a cup. He wouldn't put anything in the cup because there's no reason why they should be in that position. But a lot of people don't realize just how tough it is to be that signified. You know, in semiotics we talk about the signifier, that signified other. When they other you, they marginalize you. They make you this beast. Earlier on, I see someone, I don't know if it's a troll or what, but someone put up that black people are the result of Cain and stuff. You know.
Yeah. I couldn't delete because I couldn't get in. I'm gonna work on that if people being that ignorant.
But anyway. But the whole thing is, just right quick, how can you run for president and never show your income tax? You know, how many people will try to get credit or an apartment and not show their income tax? You understand? That's privileged. I mean, you look at what this guy wants to do, and they gave Obama hell. Okay, let's just take the sex thing. What knocked Herman Cain out the box? Soon as these women came up and said, "So, you're that 999," you know what he meant by that? This guy, and next thing you didn't hear anymore about Herman Cain running for president.
Mm-hmm.
That's white privilege. Okay, I know a lot of people say, you know, but the whole thing is the truth is the light. As the now that one of the newspapers has said that the banner borderline is democracy dies in darkness. You know, when people turn to the channel and say, I can get this on Real Black, I can get that on Real Black. We're not just putting things up. You're not just putting things up. Yeah, you want to get people to view it, but you're putting things up to educate, to familiarize. Like I said, I like there's some shows I told you. I think the viewers need to see, to have a frame of reference. Mm-hmm. Because too often when you talk about things, you know, with all the movies you see and what I see, we talk about things, and a lot of people don't see the movies we see. People were not familiar with it. Yeah. It's interesting. I wonder where Beyonce's Mega Man recently saw Imitation of Life. But the past is prologue to the future. Mm-hmm. We're living existentially in the now. How do we make the now to be something that's going to change tomorrow? And the only way we're going to be able to change tomorrow is if in our art is authentic, it's objective, and it's universal, and it speaks to the humanity of men and women. And that's the real essence of how we're going to survive, is when we learn to love each other and not let bullshit separate us.
Yeah, well, I want to get into the never forget in a second, because I think it's important for us to know the past. Like you said, past is prologue. But what you're saying remind me of the Curtis Mayfield lyric. There ain't no room for the hopeless sinner who would hurt all mankind just to save his own. And I think a lot of people they use that threat, that fear, not only to keep us divided, but to maintain power. So I feel like, you know, there's folks, certain people would rather see the whole world destroyed than let somebody else have a leg up on things, and that's the self-determination aspect. So, you know, getting into, you know, we discussed Maggie Anderson. Do we get everything? Book of Numbers also, you know, has that great exchange in terms of the double consciousness, and there's a very nice essay in Wikipedia examining that film, for a film that very few people saw. It was a long description of it in Wikipedia, where they're talking about how the film explores the double consciousness of the black man in society in that movie set in the 30s. Do you have any feelings or thoughts?
Well, it just shows you how heavy W.E.B. Du Bois was. Mm-hmm. I mean, because he gave some of the most prophetic lines in the history of mankind when he said, the problem of the 20th century will be the problem of the color line.
Mm-hmm.
And images are very important. Images, that's when you say real black and your mission, but images, it's very important. As Lerone Bennett, who was the historian editor with Ebony, his famous line is image sees, image feels, image acts. It's important that we be very mindful of what that image on the screen of us is all about.
Mm-hmm.
Because you see, as I told you, when I grew up, I was inculcated with all the images I saw,
Mm-hmm.
because I didn't see black people doing anything great. That's what Dr. John Henry Clarke speaks about when he says, when you do not give the true history of a people, and when you derogate and denigrate and disintegrate the true history of a people, then it's easier to make them something they're not. And when you can turn them into beasts, then it's easy for you to kill them,
Mm-hmm.
because they're not seen as humans.
Deep.
See. Now, when I grew up, there's this expression, admission by omission. I grew up on cowboys. I didn't see black cowboys. Black cowboys were integral to the growth of the West, but you would never learn that from the movies and from television.
Right. We
didn't see any blacks on TV until the 60s, the late 60s, but the blacks we did see, the Buellers, and the maids and the janitors, Willie Best on the Stu Erring show, they were in subservient positions.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but no one, you talk about, you say the word slave.
Mm-hmm.
Spartacus doesn't come to your mind. The Jewish slaves doesn't come to your mind. The Greek slaves don't come to your mind. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's the image of the black man in the chains. That's what the immediacy of the word slave, what it does to you in America.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because we've been inundated with that image of us, that negative, stereotypical, one-dimensional image of us.
Right.
Okay, so that has to change. It has to change, and we have to have people who are in the position to put images on the screen, to know that they have a responsibility to put something up there that's truthful. Right. It's objective. It's not glorifying us, but we're entitled to mythology just like anyone else.
Yeah, and mythology, those stories are what help shape us. And I think obviously, there's no question from my experience that we've been eating too much candy. A lot of what is sold to us is lowest common denominator. It's very easy to sell candy and drugs and sex and violence. The whole American culture, that's the root foundation of a lot of the entertainment. But because there's 5,000 channels on 365 days a year, there's a sense of choice where you don't get that label stuck on you that you're one kind of thing and that's just it. And so it's frustrating to me to think that Paul Mooney, I could understand in 1977 Paul Mooney saying there isn't enough range, but in 2019 for us to have the same conversation.
Well, here's what I have in the book that I did an article a long time, so
Mm-hmm.
updating it. But in the book is, to this point, Mike,
mm-hmm.
I'm asking you this and the viewers we have tuned in.
Mm-hmm.
Name your 10 top black movie stars in film today.
All right, you heard that. Type them in. What are your top 10? Name one or two. Who are your favorite black top or favorite, or what? How do you mean favorite, or box office, or
box office? The top stars in making films. Who's number one?
This is the interactive part of the show, folks. You gotta type in.
I see people responded to the word slave. Thank you for that, family.
Yeah. So as we're waiting for folks to type in, that dilemma still exists. Samuel L. Jackson. That dilemma still exists. Maybe it'll always continue to exist because if we're not underrepresented, we're being misrepresented, and no one piece of art can speak for everything, But
someone said Samuel L. Jackson.
Jolamite 0. I like that name, Jolamite 00.
Okay, Samuel L. Jackson, right?
Mm-hmm.
Would you consider him a star or supporting actor?
Jolamite was a star, supporting actor. I mean, I've been through the drill, so
okay.
I'm not going to jump on this one.
Okay, Will Smith. Okay, Denzel Washington.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Beyonce's into film. He just mentioned he's into film.
Yeah.
Who's the biggest now? Michael B. Jordan. Christopher Moody says Michael B. Jordan. Okay, okay. Michael B. Jordan. Fruitvale Station. He's a victim. He gets killed. That was based on a true story.
Right.
Right. The cops shoot him down. Samuel L. Jackson, for the most part, his parts is he's the tough, angry black man.
Oh, Creed. You got to acknowledge Creed a little bit.
Creed, the athlete. Okay, the athletic, the black athlete. Okay. Denzel Washington. He's one of the few who gives you a range, and you don't see Denzel doing comedy and whatnot.
Well, wait, hang on. Isaiah Washington, we're saying top box office people.
Isaiah, he's still...
yeah, he's still behind the 8 ball right now. I think
Wanda Wisdom loved Isaiah. Isaiah was, you see, he didn't last long because he was too angry.
He said the wrong thing at the wrong time to the wrong person. And this is pre-Twitter. Can you imagine now what would happen?
Angela Bassett, she's a supporting actress now. But when you saw Angela, she was an angry black woman. She played the Tina Turner story, which was an entertainer. Well, the point I'm making is this: your biggest star right now is The Rock and Kevin Hart. For the most part, when you really break it down, our actors, our top performers in film, are entertainers, comics, rap artists. Will Smith started out as a rap artist, and he went to TV to do comedy. Well, comedy's
a big seller across the board for everybody.
Yes, yes. So the thing is, one of the ways you dumb down America is you popularize, and the popularity can be manufactured. That's what I'm working on, to show how what we go see, a lot of times it's just like when you buy toothpaste. You're sold on a certain brand as being the best brand.
Right.
That's manufactured attachment. That's BS. What we go see is manufactured. It's we go see what they make us go see. Okay? And a lot of things we should see, we don't see. Now, we know Denzel Washington. We loved him in Training Day as a road cop. But Denzel, when you talk about as a talent, as a director, the great debaters, Antoine Fisher, who saw those films?
Right.
John Q, which was a good film. What's his name said he loved that film? The guy who did Good Times. Am I right or wrong?
Yeah. Yeah.
But you know why John Q wasn't popularized so much?
Well, in terms of it making money, as far as what Denzel does,
I thought he was good. I thought it was entertaining, but you know why it wasn't popular?
His fame doesn't carry over past action. Like he'll do those.
You know why it didn't?
Why, Charles? Conspiracy. Huh? Why?
What was that film about?
Father protecting his son, or willing to give up his life to save his son's life.
What's the big issue today? One of the big issues today that they're talking about: healthcare, my brother.
Healthcare system, organ.
See?
Well, people.
What happened with concussion? Will Smith concussion.
Well, that's their trade-off, you know. But
But what happened to the film is that the subject matter
it got shut down. Yeah, clearly.
shut down by who?
The powers that be. Yeah. Well,
There's football, and that's
yeah.
money. Don't mess with our money, Mike. Don't mess
Yeah.
with our money. John Q, don't mess with our money. Concussion, don't mess with our money.
Okay, well, I think that's worth exploring more because I think those guys are at a level where they can make a movie for them and then make a movie for the studio and then get a vanity project off the ground for them. You know, Clint Eastwood, he established that pattern, and Tom Cruise did it. You know, so I don't know if those movies were expected to make money. Now, when Tom Cruise does it, he gets Oscar nominations. When he did Born on the 4th of July, that was a big risk as far as for his talent. The studio would have preferred for him to do more Top Gun, but he went and did the acting thing and legitimized him. I think Will Smith has followed in that path. Occasionally he'll get the Oscar nomination, but I think the frustration, one of the things that kicked off Oscar So White was the fact that Will Smith was not nominated for Concussion. So, you know, you can definitely point to what's happening with Kaepernick, and the NFL has a lot of power in terms of where people advertise and who buys tickets. So I understand your point. So, but self-reliance, I mean, what are we risk averse in showing? I mean, right now we're in a women's moment, right? And we have to get things moving there. I wish the romances weren't reflecting of dysfunction. I want everybody to win, but I think that there are healthier ways to win than this divide and conquer game, and putting people at odds with one another. It's not a natural thing. It's not something that I think is demonstrative, but it's all over the culture. You hear it in the music, it's on TV, it's in movies. So, it's a difficult thing to change, Charles. But self-reliance is another issue that we don't always see reflected in movies. Black people that say, hey, we're gonna go out for ourselves, and we have the right as human beings, as children of God, to dictate and fulfill our self-proclaimed destiny the way anybody else on this planet does. So that's what I really liked about Book of Numbers, and the narrative that Reginald Lewis is talking about, the way he exemplified his life. Why do white guys have to have all the fun?
Well, what was unique about let's say Harlem Nights,
Mm-hmm.
and because Harlem Nights is to me, it's many ways, it reflects a lot of what was in Book of Numbers. Mm-hmm. But here's the thing.
Yeah, well, before you get into that, I love both movies. It's interesting when you look back at a gangster film. Book of Numbers, you go in and it's all illegal, but it's in an unregulated town. So the threat never comes from the police. You never even see a cop, right? So they're not labeled.
In what, Book of Numbers?
In Book of Numbers, they're not.
That's not true.
Huh? Oh, say again.
The police are used to help bring the
the KKK. Well, the KKK comes in, but I'm saying, like at the beginning, the way they establish the light. What I'm trying to at the beginning, it's sort of like, I mean, so much of our behavior, our activity is criminalized and labeled as such from the beginning of the movie. What's interesting about Book of Numbers, it starts off, they're living, they're staying at the house as they build their organization up. Everything is illicit. They're living, they're gambling, they're with whores, they're doing numbers, all of this sort of things that would be underworld subculture is what I'm getting. The whole world that we're immersed in, and the same with Harlem Nights. It's accepted that these guys are criminal, but it's not a wages of sin thing. It's not.
Well, what they do is that they sanitize criminality.
Okay.
Okay, because these guys are heroes, and they can't be heroes if you show them engaging in something that's horrendous as far as crime is concerned.
Mm-hmm.
So if you deal with numbers, it always felt was not the way they were projected. It wasn't like you were pushing drugs.
Right.
Okay. So, but the thing is,
but the sense of community. Go
ahead, Mike.
The sense of community that's projected, by going back to the 30s Depression era and showing an all-Black community, where everybody's self-reliant. Like even the scene, like like the barbershop, where they're getting hair. It's like, who knew this kid could make money serving water? This whole it opens up with a sense of nostalgia that I think a lot of people that view the channel feel like, wow, what happened? How much has changed through integration? So right away, we're in this realm where somebody said individualism versus collectivism. Already we're in a community that recognizes and supports one another, looks the other way at crime, and no one's really, like you said, there's no heroin yet. There's no real hard thing, in terms of what the consequences of, we're not preying on one another, although it's kind of, they said where all these people got all this money from, I don't know, but we're raking it in, so.
Yeah, that money's circulating. That's what's happening. It's circulating.
Mm-hmm.
It's recycled. It's because they show, one of the things how they sanitize the images is they show you the church scenes.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, man, if that number would have come out, that 132 would have come out, it would have broke the bank. But the thing is, what you see is community. That's beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, when I first told you, when I realized tricknology, I said, I looked at that word,
mm-hmm.
and for me, it meant trick. The tricknology is you get no logi. Logi, most people, if they study the Bible, logi would be a familiar word, but anyone who knows the etymology of words and they're familiar with words, logi deals with words.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So the thing is, the trick is you get no words on how to have a program to dismantle this racist, exploitative, capitalistic system.
Right.
The characters, Black characters we get in film, they're pretty much trying to make it as white folks.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? When I say as white folks, in other words, we're trying, for us to be successful, we're modeling ourselves after white folk.
Right.
Okay? The thing is, you're Pan-Africanist, you're nationalist, saying the only solution for us is to be about our Blackness and to get back to the spirituality of what our true culture is all about.
Mm-hmm.
And the true culture, because I told you my elders, Dr. John Henry Clark, our true culture, according to the elders like John Henry Clark, Dr. John Henry Clark, he's saying we are a spiritual collective people.
Mm-hmm.
We look out for each other. There's no nation state. There is the condition that we are all about each other. Okay, when you had the commission with McCarthy, and they went after the communists, the communist infiltration.
Mm-hmm.
The big fear was, they said that was coded in the films that were coming out. The communists were coding an anti-capitalistic messaging. They were promoting socialism. That was their big concern. Okay, right. There's a film that Paul Robeson did, Tales of Manhattan, mm-hmm. and when this money drops from the sky, but he has a key line, and they said, "No more begging, no more." They got all this money, but they were sharing it with the community. That was a socialistic message. I don't even know how they left that in there. I know
Yeah.
that he hated the role he and Ethel Waters did.
Well, coming out of the Depression, I think there's the idea that we needed that, and now we're in a capitalistic, cesspool, what have you.
And to get to the idea of how film is reactionary as far as our image is concerned, well, it's for everyone. It's reactionary. We're in a Me Too movement now. So, what kind of films you see? A lot of strong women roles. During the war years, who were your top stars in film? Mike, you're a historian on film.
It was women, because they were the only one people home. There's lots of great women pictures. Somebody actually asked that in Texas. I didn't address it completely. Yeah, I mean,
okay.
We need more women's pictures, but also to circle that back, I know you have a point to make. Somebody was saying men over women. I just think that to fit into what you're saying, I think we've lost, because of urbanization, capitalism, we've lost sight of nature, and what balance is about, and it's not really reflected in our entertainment. Everything is so aspirational, to the point where people are being controlled in terms of what they want or what they don't want by what they see in the screens, and we don't always understand that we're being controlled. That it's a very powerful force, this visual medium. I think that's what we're saying earlier. Over anything, it can trick your attention into wanting things that are not healthy for you. So I think what we're both, I think, for viewers, I think our conversation, what we're both sort of, Charles and I are both sort of struggling with on our own levels, is how do we get this idea out to more people. Charles is writing a book, and he's examining it this way, and my travels, I'm just looking at other people's films and trying to understand what's needed in terms of a holistic approach. So men over women, no, but I think that what we don't see enough of are healthy relationships. And I want to, before we close, I want you to make your point, but I think it might be a good opportunity to talk about the Cosby Oprah thing, in terms of parenting and modeling in that way, and images and how we can kind of repair, create a more healthy environment for people to grow. But as you were saying, Charles.
Well, I was just going to say, the same way we could have like a book of numbers, where your protagonists, they're numbers runners, but they're showing through becoming rich and powerful from that enterprise, there's a sense of community, and the thing is that the paradigm for me has always been the fact that integration caused our disintegration. Self-reliance, getting back to this idea of self-reliance, that is very important. If a people learn about the power in their hands, and they learn not to allow for things to be excuses why they can't do something, to go out and do it. That's sort of like the message that got a lot of people upset with. The other thing you put up was Bill Cosby and Oprah Winfrey and Dr. Alvin Toussaint, when they talk about come on people. That's truth. That's speaking truth. But a lot of times, as they say, the truth hurts. But the thing is, I mean, the same thing if Chris Rock does black hair, Bill Duke does black skin, the thing on black skin, that may be something we don't want to deal with. But how do we put truth up there on the screen that will raise our consciousness, make us realize that a lot of the problems we think we have, we just can't point fingers and saying all the time it's because of the system. You have to look within first.
Yeah, the system didn't break into my car last winter.
Yeah, look at that person in the mirror. And the old saying is,
but hang on, wait, Charles, system, I'm still mad at you for breaking in my car, taking on my video equipment. System, motherfucker, system.
But when you point fingers, they say you have more pointing back at you. So I mean, we have to learn how to look at ourselves first. What is it we're not doing to make things better for ourselves. As far as those people who make film, be imaginative, be daring. Instead of, let's say, people on the screen who are numbers runners, how about we create a character who is about changing the dynamic of his community by being some forceful teacher. A story about a black politician who is about change and showing the community how to make change through the power of their vote, the power of them being a community and coming together to solve problems with solutions that they come up with together, and not just keep continuously talking about problems, but having films up there that show solutions.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. I mean, documentaries, if you examine the past, you will see those stories. The Maynard Jackson documentary on Netflix. I don't know if you had a chance to see that one yet, Charles.
No.
I mean, and a few. I mean, in the 70s, we had a lot of the civil rights movement. The advent was having black politicians, and I think Maynard Jackson was one of the most forceful in terms of developing the economics of Atlanta. To this day, a lot of the wealth that exists among black folks was instigated by Maynard Jackson. Now, I mean, the only issue with that is that it's really not our game. You know, if somebody, when I was in Texas, they said, well, Mike, if they see you as a player, they don't really care about color. It's your ability to make money for each other. And I said, okay, I get that, but what how much do you have to stake up? Like if you're coming from a level of disadvantage, how do you get your money? Where do you get your money? And then can black folks take dirty money and make it clean the way the Kennedys could? Those become my questions. You gotta have a stake at it at first.
Well, what happens? What becomes a demoralizing attack on the idealism that a lot of the people black people come to Hollywood, they come with this strong, fierce idealism, what they want to do with their art. And someone says, my brother, let me tell you something. I love what you want to do. This is very high-minded. It's progressive and all of that. But let me tell you, in Hollywood, it's not about the black. It's not about the white. It's about the green. This is show business, brother. Right. And if you can't show me a business with your film that's going to make us a lot of green, it's sayonara. If you want to make that film, you raise the money and do it yourself.
Right. So, so as a result, Hollywood Shuffle, they'll always find somebody that's a little easier to work with, and they'll get what they want. So but that's the interesting thing.
But that's a classic example, right?
Always work at the post office.
Michael Clark Duncan, Steve Harvey said, why you do that part? Why you play that gorilla? And he said, Michael Clark said, well, I got $10 million. And what's Steve Harvey say?
I'll put on the suit, well, we'll see what happens.
My man is back playing tonight. Now my wife's sitting there, I can hear shouting at the TV screen.
Oh yeah, we got our sign off soon. But LeBron,
the king, brother.
Yeah, Charles is a huge LeBron fan. They're playing West Coast. It's kind of late.
They're playing the Clippers. Yeah.
You don't miss any LeBron games. How do you get all the LeBron? Oh, it's TNT. It's like the LeBron channel.
No, you know what? I turned my wife on to LeBron now. She's more LeBron than I am.
That's good. Well, you should.
So I had to subscribe. I couldn't afford the
NBA network. The NBA network.
So I got the only the Lakers. I just get the Lakers.
Oh my goodness!
And if it makes her happy, I'm happy.
See,
I'm much happier these days, Mike, because there's two words you have to learn when you become a married person, a married man. That your wife always has the last two words, and that's that you always have the last two words.
I'm sorry.
In a marriage. Yes, dear.
Yes, dear. No, I'm sorry. Yes, dear. So you got the NBA. How much of that NBA money is going back to NBA black peoples?
Well, here's what
You're
you have
not
to
part of the
understand.
solution, Charles.
The NBA could be the National Black Association. That's the one sport where the players control 60% of the purse.
Okay, 60%. That's not bad, but you need to give what's his name, the Ice Cube your money. He's got a basketball league, and that other guy who sent his kid off to China, he's got his trying to compete against the NBA, start his own league. So
one quick anecdote: when you talk about self-reliance,
mm-hmm.
to show you how they shut you down. The same thing I say. It's not just movies. How they shut down certain films if they're countercultural, if they're counter capitalism. Mm-hmm. You look at an interesting story right quick. Is you know the Stephon Marbury story?
With the sneakers, yeah. 60 Minutes.
Okay, you know what happened to those sneakers, right?
You can get them on eBay for twice what they cost.
He can only sell them in China, or but you can't get them in the local store because the Nikes and the other sneaker company said if you sell his sneaker, you won't have ours.
Wow, that's collusion.
That's monopolizing, and that's collusion, brother.
Yeah. Well, that's one good thing about I can honestly report about the What Men Want movie, which our Real Black members get a chance to see on Monday, and it comes out February 8th. Look for our interview with Richard Roundtree and Aldous Hodge. The Tracy Morgan character, he plays the father of an NBA player, and he if you see the poster, he's going head to head with Taraji in terms of like trying to empower his son, make sure that he signs the right deal, and actually triggers her into having a little bit of consciousness about what master she's serving. If you want to say there's a message in the movie, I'm not going full in on What Men Want, but I do want people to see it so that it can be discussed, and it's got a lot of talented people in the movie, and it's entertainment. But yeah, I mean, so I don't know. So what are the chances? Are we going to start an empire of our own here, Charles, via YouTube, or are we ultimately going to sell out and be pimping our viewers? What are you going to be selling? Some key rings? What are we going to be commodifying on, Charles?
Well,
I've been broke too long.
The thing is, if they're selling you on the message. The message is, if you want to play the game, you got to play it by our rules.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to make that money, you got to play by our rules. And I see a lot of the actors, of the black actors. You won't get them. Very few of them are going to say anything that's going to cause them issues, because they're not going to bite the hand that feeds them.
Right.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And so the thing is, there's a certain arrogance I hear in a lot of these guys' voices. They're making a lot of money, and in some ways they're helping. That they're putting back. I like what Denzel does with his money. Other people, I like what LeBron does with his money. He's in the film business now too,
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, for the most part, no one's going to say anything that's going to attack the system as being racist.
Right.
Okay, they're not going to say it's racist. They're just going to say that a lot of the people who are in control of making the films, greenlighting the films, they just have an affinity like anyone else. It's to be about who you are. If black folks had the money, they'd be making things that reflects who they are, right? That's natural.
Well, there's two sides to everything. I mean, the justice and the truth always should prevail, but I was telling you the other day, when you look at that whites only water photo, with have the whites only, and then it's like new fountain, and then next to it lowers the black water fountain, it says black water. It's like, if I was white back in 1957, mm-hmm. I might say, well, Of course, I paid for the water. I paid for the building. Why not designate? You know. So, and I think that that's what the self-reliance of segregation gave you. You know, like what would be interesting is if you went to the black part of town, was there another sign that said white water and it was lower? You know, um, or are we so mentally brainwashed as not to empower ourselves when we have the opportunity?
Well, what's deep is, I told you one of the other projects that, I've been holding back on it, but the color of Christ,
Mm-hmm.
the whole thing is this color thing has become so political, so racialized. In America, color became the governing factor for the treatment of individuals. Centuries ago, color didn't mean anything. And in the Bible, with exception to maybe the Nubians, the Ethiopians, where they're, if you look at the linguistics, it referred to the skin color of blacks being different than what the Jews, how they saw themselves. But the Bible has been the source of racism because people consider the Bible holy, and the way it's been misinterpreted, it's been used to promote racism. And so my attempt with the book is to show how the misinterpretation is a consequence of people reading out of something what they read into it. Okay, and so what's the point I'm trying to make? The connection is we see what we want to see. That's what semiotics and spectatorship and that's what it's all about. A lot of times is we can't get the truth because we're blinded by what we want to see. And so whenever you go watch a movie, you're looking for yourself. You're looking to identify you. You're looking to define you. And if you don't see you, then you feel something's wrong with this picture. And so everyone, that's a need for everyone. That's the reason why we have religion. Religion is organized belief, an organized belief system. If you tell people that the religion they believe is based on mythology, they'll take exception to it because they think you're being sanctimonious and that you're attacking their belief system. In a way you are, but the thing is, what I'm saying is you have to be mindful of what you believe in terms of how valid is it, how empirical is it. There's no history of Moses. There's no history of Jesus. Okay? If you tell people that, they feel attacked. If you tell people you didn't like a movie and they liked it, if you didn't like Black Panther, I didn't like Black Panther, let's say. Oh, you're attacking me.
Right.
And see, the thing is, no, you can like that movie. You can like Friday. You can like what's that thing you didn't like? The Superfly. Yeah. You can like okay. This you can like Beale Street. I didn't like it. You can like whatever you like. Because I don't like it. Nothing's wrong with your taste. We each have our own. We take our own selves to everything we see and do. And we have to be mindful of that. But the thing is, the bottom line is, as I keep saying, what's important is that we learn to respect other people's ideas and opinions. If we disagree, let's disagree respectfully and not disagree in a disagreeable ad hominem way. Yeah. But the thing is, the one main factor people have to understand is that if someone's in charge of putting something on the television, on the screen, and it's reflective of people in a very negative way, then it's important for people to examine and analyze those images and to be able to show the error that these things are replete with, and to be able to attack it from an objective perspective.
Very well put. So, I mean, and ultimately that's the goal here. You know, we're not controlling anybody's thought, but maybe your way of thinking, the responsibility. We want to share our perspective. But I think the main thing is that it'd be very painful for us to inadvertently or unintentionally repeat the same mistakes due to ourselves, what has been done to us for so long, when we have control over the images, you know. And in terms of winning, you know, Charles, you said you're a Lakers fan now.
Yeah. Wherever my man's at, that's my team.
I'm diehard Eagles right now, but they frustrated me this year because they lost too many games. They didn't get to the Super Bowl. But every game they lost, you know how we lost the game?
No.
We spent too much time on defense. Or, you know, by the end of the game, we were winded and they could just pick us apart. A lot of the games were very close, except for that middle of the season New Orleans game, which was a transition game for Nick Foles. We just spent too much time on defense. And I think, you know, from the time I wake up in the morning to the time I go at bed at night, it's like frustrating that I got to spend so much energy just to justify my existence, my reason to exist. It's hard sometimes to feel good when you absorb other people's pain the way that we do sometimes. So, you know, we're working hard to make this channel a source for some liberating thought. At least you can feel comfortable. And maybe retrain your belief system. No?
Well, I just hope, like, you know, we discuss what we want to do, new things we want to do with the channel. I told you some ideas I have. I want to work on some other, the many lessons or show. I want to make sure that the viewers have a good frame of reference. Because the past is the prologue to the future. Yeah. And then when you see what they did with us in the past and you look at today's films, then you'll be able to understand when I say that a lot of what we see today is just dressed up. You know, they had the term neo-minstrelsy. It's just dressed up old archetypes and tropes from the past. They just went from blatancy to covertness. It's been encoded more. It's more subtle, but it's still there.
Yeah, the mythology is still the same. You know, we all get our lessons through stories, where the stories come from. You know, I think we're in a sea change in terms of how we perceive ourselves, and it's just a power thing. Beyonce Mega Man, you're a hilarious motherfucker. So you called me fat boy, and then I didn't respond. So now I'm Mike all of a sudden, and now you just shut the fuck up, didn't you?
I'm seeing this name for the first time.
Well, you know, it's cool. He hung with us for almost 2 hours. So I gotta show Beyonce Mega Man some love. I mean, so let's winding it down. So roll call. Thanks for joining us. Where are you guys from? We want to know what part of the world you're from. And Charles, I was at the record store. You know, we've been posting up a lot of soundtracks, so I just want to get your feedback. This is some stuff that'll be going up. You see that one?
Yeah, what's interesting about Muhammad Ali, he played himself in that film, the greatest. And people said they couldn't believe him.
he was bad playing himself?
In fact, Will Smith played Muhammad Ali better than Muhammad Ali played himself.
This is out of print. I thought this was kind of cool.
Who played his wife in that film?
Gabe Kaplan's wife?
No, Muhammad Ali.
Oh, going back? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It's been a while since I've seen it.
The beautiful Anisette Chase.
Oh yeah, she's in that
who
commercial.
Played with Isaac Hayes and Chuck Turner.
Okay, well everybody knows this for The Greatest Love of All, which was remade by Whitney Houston. So
oh man, I love what's his name's Benson's version.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah. That's George Benson's version is on here.
Hmm.
And I quote. I do believe that children are the future.
Yes.
Teach them well
Yeah,
and let
but
them
that's the
lead the
whole thing.
way.
Teach them well, because as was said in The Hate You Give,
Hmm.
what you do to children today, they will do to you tomorrow.
Teach them well and let them lead the way. Show them all the beauty they possess inside.
And when I hear that, you know who I think of? Stevie Wonder.
Mm,
And one of the songs, With a Child's Heart.
okay. Screw the kids, get money. You hateful human being, Beyonce. Show them all the beauty they possess inside. Give them a sense of pride to make it easier. Let the children's laughter remind us of how we used to be. So
You got it down, brother.
well, shit. That's all we sung in grade school. That was a good song.
Oh, let's not forget Peace and Blessings, and another great has transitioned.
Uh-huh.
Our hearts for heartfelt sympathies go out to the family of James Ingram.
Oh, James Ingram. Yeah, we did. A gifted voice lost. 66, gone too soon.
Talking about film.
Mhm.
James Ingram. How many times he was in the nomination for best song of theme song?
Yeah. No, yeah, and we're just teasing. We're just joking with you. Beyonce's Mega Man. Thanks. You hung out almost 2 hours. So this has with you on Born Again. It's a fun movie from the 70s.
I love that song, With You I'm Born Again. In fact, I got to make a note of that. I'm trying to piece together music for my Black romance documentary.
Mm-hmm.
But I also liked wasn't that that's Billy Preston, right?
Yeah, Billy Preston, Sarita. Yeah.
Now wasn't did the two of them? Did they do a no? They did Smokey's song on The Last Dragon.
Oh yeah, Well, Sarita was married to Stevie Wonder.
Yeah, the Ferris wheel.
Yeah.
I love that song.
This is a laser disc. I have to get the players out, but
which store you went to?
Well, this is an eBay, but there's a local store. I dug some of these up.
Natalie Cole, tragic. Them drugs ended her life, man.
Yeah, it's a shame.
She was gorgeous. She was beautiful, I tell you.
Mm-hmm. And you have there's something in your collection that's an EPK for the Nat King Cole thing, but yeah, definitely, just super talented. This for whatever reason, I'm not finding this on Spotify. Another soundtrack. Gladys.
Yeah, another film that really wasn't officially released, except it was on video.
Yeah, it was on Embassy Home Video, the VHSs. We've shown it once in the series.
But that guy she married, he was a dog, man.
Hankerson. Well, he was Aaliyah's uncle.
And he was a dog. He's a dog, man.
Well, you're not the only one
that
that
talk
said
about
that.
People, but
a lot of people
said a piece of crap.
A lot of people. Well, he let Aaliyah hang out with R. Kelly a little too long, I think. So, I think that's documented. He was talking about Smokey.
Well, I won't go into Smokey. Smokey had his issues too.
Well, I mean, this movie. This is something most people don't know.
That's another film that never officially came out on VHS.
It's never been released. No.
Now you know who worked on that? You remember Niecy?
Denise
remember
Williams?
The singer Niecy?
Denise Williams?
Yeah, she was married to one of the producers of that movie.
Oh, for real? Well, Jane Kennedy's in it. I haven't
Smokey
seen it.
helped produce that, and you don't know the connection between Jane Kennedy and Smokey, do you?
Well, tell us.
Well, Smokey was the best man at she and Isaac Kennedy's wedding.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's part of it.
I don't want to say any more.
Yeah, well, until the Jane Kennedy's still one of the most beautiful women.
I hate that guy got so hung up for money. Mm-hmm. He put those tapes out. It destroyed her.
Yeah, it definitely got.
And I'll tell you who I love. I love Bill Overton for accepting her, and they stayed together a long time. That is similar to what happened with Vanessa Williams. She needed someone to help her rebound.
Yeah, yeah, and Bill was also married to the woman on The Price is Right, correct?
No. Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yeah. We only got one black model on The Price is Right for 20 years. Same black woman.
Well, she was in, I think, Perfume.
Yeah. Oh, perfume. That's another the players thing. I can't open them on cam. There's 5 pages about the making of perfume. How intense is Black Hollywood? Um, yeah, Jane Kennedy. Yeah, well, Aaliyah's uncle is Barry Hankerson, who had Black Brown Records, so he controls her music. That's why you can't get Aaliyah on Spotify. He actually, except for the first album, he owns all of those masters, and he was married to Gladys Knight as well. So and basically Black Brown Records also put on R. Kelly at the beginning, so
I love me some Gladys Knight, brother. I saw her not too long ago, and she's still looking good.
I'm mad. I think she was just here in Philly, and I should have went. I should have looked into it more. And people are mad. I was saying at Texas, people are mad at her for singing the national anthem at the Super Bowl, and I'm like, but they gave Cardi B a pass performing at the AVN Awards. I'm like, what's more damaging? It's just ridiculous to me.
Here's my question:
what we invest our energy in protesting.
Did Gladys Knight need the Pips?
Oh, that makes me think automatically of.
Did Smokey Robinson need the Miracles?
Well, let me just finish my image.
And what's the guy?
Stop! I'm trying to paint. I'm painting a picture. Everybody, if you go to the Richard Pryor show, when he had this limited series on NBC, he didn't have Gladys Knight and the Pips on. He just invited the Pips.
Right.
And it's a classic bit. I think Paul Mooney had something to do with writing it. But the whole thing is like they put the spotlight on, and it's just like if Gladys Knight was there, but she's not there. And they go through all their moves, their entire act, and you don't see Gladys Knight. And it's one of the funniest fucking things ever.
To think about. The Whispers, right? We just lost. I think Kenny died not too long ago. But the Twins. Did the Twins need them other guys back there? And I tell you that choreography was ridiculous, man. There was too much jumping up and down. It was distracting.
Rock steady. All right, he's showing his age, folks.
Did Lionel Richie need the Commodores?
Well, that's part of the divide and conquer. You got to look at. Did you ever look at the? We're winding this down. So we need a roll call. Let people know where you're from and say hi. But that's what DMC was saying. He said like when hip hop came in, it was all groups, but the first thing they did was divide the lead. Like hip hop started, it was like the DJ and the rapper, or it was a group of rappers. And what they did, they isolated it to one person, and automatically that destroys the strength in numbers. It's easy when you put a lot of light on one person to make them think that they're special, and that's how they can divide and control you.
The only group maybe that had
did Jay-Z need Damon Dash?
More than one lead singer. Was it the Temptations?
Yeah, somebody mentioned that in the chat. I miss Damon Dash just pouring liquor all over people's butt. I think that's really what led to Jay-Z's stardom was the fact, but they divided and conquered on that, and the world has not been the same. Beyonce is a poor second to Damon Dash, in my opinion, in terms of. He upgraded, or she upgraded, but actually he's, I'm not gonna say anything bad about Jay-Z because I may need him one day. Not trading that card in, but to quote Chris Rock, Charles, I'll put it on Chris Rock. He said, "Money will turn a bald spot into a part." So Jay-Z, not the most attractive human being on the planet. However, he's married to Beyonce. This was a lot of fun finding. It's a compilation. I don't know if West Oak Lane is still in the building, but WDAS FM, longtime black radio station, FM station. So this is from the late 60s, and it's a compilation of music that they were playing when they were sort of more of an alternative thing. So it's like a Rotary Connection, Richie Havens, The Persuasions. Jerry Butler.
We're getting a lot of feedback on them questions, man. The music questions.
Oh, is it just Beyonce teasing motherfuckers?
Wanda Wisdom. Oh, you just passed. I can't see what she said. But who was pressured to leave the Fugees? Lauryn Hill.
Lauryn Hill. That's a whole nother story for another day. I mean,
Beyonce Mega Man. Jay-Z is ugly. You beat him in looks, Mike.
That's not hard. I just know it. Just you know what my dream is, Charles, is if I run into Jay-Z and he's so excited to see me that he drops his wallet and I don't return it. I return it. I'll be like, I found a wallet in the men's room once, full of money, and I did the right thing. I took it to the management. I said, I found this wallet in the men's room. I don't know. There's nothing in it. Just the ID.
Don't say you found a wallet in the bathroom, Mike.
Huh? I kept that damn cash. Has no name on it.
That sounds like somebody had their pants down.
All money's green. I'm just saying, if anybody finds a wallet or any kind of money.
That was in the men's room, right?
What, did you drop it? Was it yours?
No, I'm saying it was in the men's room and it probably had their pants down. So and that don't sound good for you.
Look, I'm not trying to be political. Look, we do these, folks, we do these podcasts now so that people can't troll us later. Like, because the money, when the money comes and there's pressure to like conform to people, I want it known that I've always been an asshole. I've always been a dickhead. I've always said the wrong things. So if I get caught up in one of those scandals where they want you to apologize, it's like, look, I don't know what I'm saying anyway, and there's a whole
somebody
I'll contradict myself in the same sentence. I'll contradict myself. That's how much I care.
I want you to get this clip. If somebody come after me and say, yeah, you the one, and they say, here's your picture, I'm gonna do that scene like Richard Pryor did in Which Way Is Up.
Mm-hmm.
That's not me.
That's not me. It's not.
Where he contorted his face and whatnot.
Well, if we have enough money, we can recreate. Charles and I can recreate scenes from the black movies because they keep giving us copyright strikes. So I'll make you Gene Wilder and I'll paint your face black and have you rushing out of the bathroom or some shit.
If the people could send in what's the funniest scenes they've seen in black film.
That'll be a good story. Well, to be continued. We hit 2 hours. We're over 2. I think that's more than we expected, and it's free entertainment for you and good conversation. Did we hit everything, Charles? I think we touched every note.
Thanks, Beyonce. He said we guys are funny together.
Yeah, he's
Sanford and Fattest. Beyonce's got a sense of humor.
Oh, because he hasn't said anything about you. Fuck Beyonce. Fuck a Beyonce Mega Man. Send me a picture of you with Beyonce, and then maybe I'll be impressed. Anybody can get a fucking name. You're hiding behind a B. You don't even have a freaking emoticon or what is it? What everybody else got. He got a letter. He's hiding behind some fake name.
Did you write comedy, Beyonce Mega Man?
He probably fatter than me, man. So I don't.
He said he used to write.
Okay, well, we'll get into when we take calls, which we should be able to do in a couple weeks. We'll have Beyonce Mega Man try to explain himself. I think he's gonna stutter, or he'll have a lisp. This is Beyonce Mega Man's. I'm not scared of these hiding behind. If you're gonna troll, at least get a nice emoticon, just a straight B. It doesn't frighten me. Like if you had like some angry, if you had like get a picture of you Photoshop next to Beyonce, maybe I'll take it more serious. But he hung for 2 hours, so I can't be mad. I cannot be mad at somebody that listened to us talk.
Thank you, Omar Santana. I appreciate that. He said you guys always do good stuff. Thank you.
Yeah, and the whole goal is we're trying to, like I don't know, Charlie. He hears about me talking shit all the time, right? I took the Transcendental Meditation course, which is I can't wholly recommend it because it's expensive, but it's something I wanted to do. And the whole concept is when you silence your monkey brain when like people like Beyonce Mega Man lower their chatter, you can get to the real truth, which is a subconscious level that we all exist upon, right? It's a level of perception called the common consciousness, right? Charles, you understand that idea?
Yeah, yeah.
So to me, projecting it into our reality, what we do on the channel, it's just like I can't necessarily preach to somebody. I don't look. I'm just sitting here talking shit like everybody else. But what we can do is connect one another to our common memories, and then from that we can build. You know, what is it that you would like to see? What made you happy? What movies excite you? What idea comes to your mind when he says Gladys Knight and the Pips? And then from that, we can really spark off some things that enliven the conversation. It's not just me or Charles like preaching at you and telling you how you should behave and all this shit. Like I just hate people saying you should be on code. I don't think there's too many snitches out there for me to obey to a code. It's like and I think that's part of my frustration now, Charles, is like I really thought that we were all moving in the same direction, working towards the same goals, and then you see how people operate when they have a sense of freedom, and it's very frustrating, So
you know what, Mike?
Yeah.
Earlier I think it was Beyonce Mega Man said this Me Too movement has to end, or he'd be glad when it's over, or something to that effect. But the tragic thing about being in a politically correct environment, you just can't say anything anymore, because me, I love puns, I love words, right? And I had a guy, he tried to do what I do on the job, and he was written up.
Yeah.
And someone say, well, how come I can't say this and Charles can? And you know what the girls told him? When Charles says it, we know he doesn't mean anything sexually by it. He's not trying to get into our pants. And to me, I always, like for example, it's just a lot of things you can't say anymore, and it's taken the fun out of life, man. It really has, because now this if you use a double entendre, oh, what do you mean by that? I'm offended by that, that kind of thing. I can appreciate how women have been objectified and all of that kind of stuff. But I remember when I went to see Don Rickles, and he used to tell a joke, he'd say something about black people, and he said, "Uh-oh, I hope is that a black guy coming after me now? Because all I can see is his teeth." And we laughed like a son of a gun, But everything has been changed so much now.
Yeah, well, comedy. I think I mentioned it before. The Cecil Brown book on Richard Pryor. He said the job of a comedian is to point out the elephant in the room and provide catharsis. It's sort of, I think people. This is getting a little deep, and I see everybody talking. All right, thanks for hanging out, Pope.
Yeah, Pope. See this thing Pope just said? He said he has to split. He's got to split.
Old time words. Well,
he said I got to split. Now, if I said I was talking to a young lady and she said she couldn't stay, she said I got to split.
Oh, you'd be in trouble, Charles.
Okay,
you're not.
You see what I'm talking about?
So yeah, we're winding it down. I mean, to be continued, but yeah, I think. Sometimes, I mean, to me, words are different from action, and I think at the beginning of this thing, when it was just chat rooms, a lot of free thought happened, but it was protected speech in a sense that it was just a group of people with similar interests sharing ideas. But somehow that and from ideas, bigger ideas can grow, or movements can happen, or just clarity can occur, So I think it's super important to maintain a level of free speech where it's a safe space, and I think that's what we're really working hard to have the channel be about. And I think we're injecting a sense of play into it, because I don't want people to think that I care that much, quite frankly. It's like we're discussing topics and issues that have existed since the beginning of this country, this society, and how we choose to perceive them or address them. That's really, how big a mountain do you want to climb with this? So
I just want to say Pope Cerebus the First. He didn't quite leave us, but he said something about neo-Marxist ideology. You know, one of the 4 ways you learn how to analyze film is from the Marxist analysis.
Right. Reinforcing the status quo. Yeah. So you know, in terms of having to say, says, look, I may say things that I don't agree with 2 hours later. You know, and if I'm corrected, you know, it was somebody said, once you know, then you know. It's once you're made aware of something, you're no longer ignorant. It's now judge me on my actions or my beliefs or whatever. But I think what Charles you've hit me to is just don't be locked in completely to my own beliefs, but at the same time stand for what I believe in. You know what I mean? Like you said, be open.
Mike, do you still have your wisdom teeth?
I had them pulled.
Yeah, I figured that's why you say a lot of stupid things.
Fuck. Yeah, he's starting. All right, so I'm glad you didn't go to Texas because I would have had my full of it, and we wouldn't have talked this long. So, and he farts in the bed. Don't. And I think his wife is happy he's not in the room watching the game because she'd have to.
I hear it. The things are not going well. She's. You know. I can hear her in here screaming.
Oh, that means she's breathing. But if you're in the room, she I don't know what's gonna happen with this. Like this game. And
listen,
old people are smart. Old people farts are more smelly.
I just want to say.
All right, you close it off.
You know how to stretch things out, brother. I thought I could talk, but you got me beat, brother.
Well, we're following. We had fun, didn't we? We're getting out of here.
I loved it. We had some people stay with us this long. God bless them.
Yeah.
And you gonna wind this down, brother?
I'm giving you last word. I'm gonna shut up. What did we learn? What did we learn in school today, Charles?
What did we learn in school? Well, you know, each one teach one. We have to turn to each other, not on each other. We need each other. We need to value each other respectfully, and that, you know, as the if you know, I came down sort of on the Bible, but the thing is, love your fellow man, and do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Peace and blessings to the real Black family.
All right, peace and blessings. This is Beyonce. He keeps talking. Look, it's all fun and games until someone loses an eye. That's all I got. But again, you hung out for 2 hours, so we love you and come back. And peace and blessings. So if you watch this live, then thank you. And if you're watching it later, you know, you missed your chance. We're loading up the boat now when we're like super famous. You're gonna have to pay for this. Trust me. You know, I have enough friends, Charles. Don't need any more friends and followers. We need people that are
benefactors. Benefactors.
Oh, well, that's a whole nother story. We should have live chat, but they keep playing games with me. If you want to support, we'll have ways for you to support. But this was fun. It's been real, and yeah, we love you too. Oh, Pope, I thought you were gone, man. Okay. People are just as bad as us. All right, so you can watch the last. You can watch the last quarter.
He says I'm an old white man. Love you guys. Okay.
Oh, okay. I see what's happening. All right, so we'll debrief on this, and we want to try and do this every Thursday, if possible, just to lock people in on topics. And if, but you know, there's more content. Like I said, try and post stuff every day, at least 2 videos a day. All right. Thanks, Charles. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, family.
Mike, I'm gonna go see the rest of the game. I'll talk to you.
All right. Peace.
Peace.
Have a great night, guys.
You
and
too.
Ladies and whoever. How many
Stay
genders?
Black.
Lots of genders watching. I don't. He, she, we, us, them. Thank you for watching.